The Bangladesh Liberation War. From March to December 1971, the Bangladesh Liberation War ignited, as Bengali nationalists in East Pakistan led by the Awami League and Mukti Bahini fought fiercely for independence against West Pakistani forces, despite obstacles like Operation Searchlight. The conflict drew in India, who was in support of Bengalis, and the United States of America, who were in support of West Pakistan while having their own political motivations for China. World War II had significantly weakened the British Empire in terms of economic resources and infrastructure. In India, one of the British Empire's main colonies, nationalist motivations began to gain momentum, often dividing Muslims and Hindus. Muslims feared prolonged marginalization by Hindus and used the Muslim League to fight for a homeland of their own, while a predominantly Hindu Congress favored a unified India. Facing financial loss and political unrest in India, the British Empire hastily transferred power in 1947, subsequently dividing the subcontinent into India and Pakistan. This rush partition failed to take into account the cultural and linguistic differences of those in West and East Pakistan, particularly the imposition of Urdu as the national language, marginalizing the Bengalis in the East. Some would argue that the separation of Bangladesh from Pakistan was a mere Bengali nationalist rebellion. However, what began as a local conflict fought by resistance groups in Dhaka evolved into a large-scale revolution across East Pakistan, inspiring responses from the Indian and United States governments. Therefore, Bangladesh's journey for independence had significant impacts beyond the local scale. Bangladesh's revolution for independence began at the local level via organized political action led by the Awami League, as opposed to being a mere spontaneous rebellion. Document 5, the Awami League's 6-point program, outlines demands for regional autonomy, including East Pakistan's own military force, navy, and control over economic and trade policies. The purpose of this program was to formalize Bengali political goals and pressure the central government, showing that the independence movement was focused on systemic change and was not just an impulsive resistance. Hence, the document demonstrates how the conflict extended beyond local protests, as Bengalis would be advocating for constitutional reforms that would eventually be applied to the nation of Bangladesh. Document 6 is a secondary source describing the Awami League's democratic principles and members, and how they persevered against Ayub Khan's authoritarian ideologies, amassing widespread support across East Pakistan. The Awami League's tenacity against Ayub Khan's regime via their organization and strategy proved their importance in the greater context of the revolution. Beyond the documents, Bengali nationalism initially rose through student-led demonstrations at Dhaka University, showing how the resistance movement had evolved from local protests to advocating for reform as a fully fledged political party, eventually winning the 1970 Pakistani general election. The Pakistani government reacted to the Awami League's actions by cracking down on Bengali citizens through Operation Searchlight, demonstrating how a local uprising had escalated to a national level. Document 4, the White Paper on the Crisis in East Pakistan, published by the Pakistani government, justifies Operation Searchlight by claiming the Awami League's non-cooperation movement had led to the breakdown of law and order in East Pakistan. This source demonstrates how the independence movement had grown so influential that the central government deemed it necessary to react with mass killings and sexual violence on Bengalis. The intended audience for the White Paper included Western allies like the United States of America and the United Kingdom. Hence, Operation Searchlight was not framed as the genocide that it was, but was portrayed as a necessary containment of a nationalist rebellion that had grown out of control, as an attempt to maintain Pakistan's international image. Document 3, a telegram written to the U.S. government by the U.S. Consul General in Dhaka, Archer Blood, condemns the actions of the West Pakistan majority government in regards to Operation Searchlight and its violent suppression of democracy. Its purpose was to inform the government of the scope of violence and the amount of lives Operation Searchlight affected, emphasizing the magnitude of the Awami League's actions as well. The Bengali independence movement escalated into an international crisis, the Bangladesh Liberation War, drawing responses from India, the US, and ultimately eliciting political reform in Bangladesh. Document 2 from the Nixon-Kissinger tilt policy outlines the USA's strategy of maintaining leverage on Pakistan to open diplomatic relations with China. This demonstrates how the conflict extended far beyond East Pakistan and drew in global powers for political reasons. In a historical context, the document was written during the Cold War in August of 1971, in which U.S. foreign policy decisions were centered around geopolitical relations as opposed to humanitarian crises like the genocide in East Pakistan. Pakistan acted as a U.S.-China intermediary, while India's alliance with the Soviet Union made it a competitor in the Cold War. Hence, Nixon and Kissinger tilted towards Pakistan rather than assisting India in the refugee crisis from Operation Searchlight and ignored the atrocities committed against Bengalis. Document 7 is a chart showing the distribution of the 10 million Bengali refugees in India by the end of 1971. This illustrates the massive humanitarian impact of the conflict not only on East Pakistan but on an international scale, as India trained the Mukti Bahini, a Bengali guerrilla force, to fight West Pakistani troops alongside the Indian National Army, but it also hosted millions of refugees fleeing the war. As outlined in Document 1, the war ended when West Pakistan's forces surrendered to the Indian National Army and Mukti Bahini, leading to the creation of an independent Bangladesh. Beyond the documents, this resulted in major political reforms like the establishment of a parliamentary democracy and standardization of Bengali as the official language, showing how what started as a local independence movement inspired significant governmental change. In conclusion, the Bangladesh Liberation War began as a small struggle for autonomy led by the Awami League, but quickly escalated into a global affair, drawing in India, the United States, and other international powers. U.S. foreign policy, shaped by Cold War priorities, prioritized strategic alliances with Pakistan over humanitarian concerns, while India supported Bengali refugees and the Mukti Bahini. Ultimately, the war concluded with the surrender of West Pakistani forces and the creation of an independent Bangladesh, bringing in significant political reforms, including parliamentary democracy and recognition of Bengali as the national language.